we're looking at factorizing expressions, and this is what we started yesterday, okay? We're going to dig back into it and have a look at some trickier examples. So first, let's just remember, these things here, if you didn't see any word that told you what to do with these, right? What would you guess that you should do with these? Any suggestions? Yeah, Adam.
I guess you times 5 by x, then plus 6. Well, I know you do x plus 6.
Okay, so let's see if we can remember, right? We were looking at this under the heading of expanding expressions, right? And we said, well, there's 5 times x, and then Rachel? It will be 5 times 6 because there's really a multiplication sign hiding in there, isn't there? And that multiplication gets distributed, there's the whole distributive law idea, across your other two numbers. So what is 5 by 6? It's 30, right? Good, okay. So we remember that this process of going from left to right is what we call expanding. And if you were to go in reverse, that's what we call factorizing. Right? Factorizing is going this way. Both of these terms on the right-hand side, right? Both of these terms have 5 as a factor. Okay. So if I saw not this question, but this question, right? If I saw this, okay. On the first question, the word might have been expand. And on this question, the word might be factorize, right? So you really got to pay attention to those verbs. They tell you, here's a situation, but what do you do with it, okay? So just like we did this in reverse, you can see, oh look, there's a 5 that I can divide both of these numbers by, right? So this is in fact the way that I would say it. I would put a 5 out the front, and I would say, right, well, when I divide this by 5, what am I left with? Answer, x. When I divide this by 5, what do I get left with? Answer, 6. Right? So that was us going in the reverse direction. Okay, now, similar one here.
Sorry, I'm late, sir.
That's okay, take a seat. You can tell me later. Have a look at this. Let's do the expansion. Okay. What am I going to get when I distribute this 4 across to the other two terms inside? 4 times 3x, what will I get?
12x.
12x, very good. 4 times 7.
28.
We're on the money there. Great job. Okay, now I picked this one out because it's a little bit trickier. Suppose now, just like here, we got, not this is a question, but this was the question. Okay? So you see 12x plus 28. And then they said, okay, now factorize. Okay? In the example we looked at just a minute ago, this one, it's really easy to see. There's going to be a 5 there because there's a 5 there. But you can't do that with this one, can you? Right? 12 goes into this, but it doesn't go into this. Right? You go, the multiples of 12 are 12, and then 24, and then 36. I missed, 28's not in there, right? It's not a multiple of 12. So here, you'll be really careful. This is what the whole point of last exercise was when we looked at highest common factor. You have to say, what's the biggest number that I could divide both of these by? What's the biggest number? Okay. Now, you remember we just expanded this, right? This is where it came from. Yeah. It's going to be 4, isn't it? Now, I'll just give you a quick example of what happens if you don't spot that it's 4. Okay, just suppose, right? 12 and 28. They're both even numbers, right? So I can definitely divide by 2, right? That's fine, okay? So what will happen when I put a 2 out the front? I'll divide this by 2 and that leaves me with 6x, very good. And I'll divide this by 2 which leaves me with 14. Okay, now you pause, and you look at what you've written down, okay? I've taken out a factor, but I can keep going, can't I? Look, 6x and 14, they still have a common factor. They're still even, aren't they? Right? Yeah. So in fact, I can take 2 out another time, right? So when I take another 2 out, it'll be 2 times 2, and then I'll get my 3x plus 7, which is what I started with, right? My 2 times 2 out the front, that's the 4. So even if you don't spot it right away, okay, you can do it over a couple of steps and that's still fine. Okay? Now this one's a bit trickier. right? When we had a look at these questions, I started with the expansion and then we worked backwards. We kind of knew what we were expecting. You don't know what to expect here, okay? So let's just take this approach of thinking, well, what is in common between these? And there's loads of things. Can someone spot just one for me? What's one thing that's definitely in common between both of these terms? Yeah, Manal. Okay, good. I see x's in both of them, okay? Now watch out. There's an x squared here, so how many x's are really there? 2. There's really 2. There's no power here, so how many x's are there really? There's 1. I could write 1 there if I wanted, okay? So the first thing I'll do is I'll take out x. Is that alright? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, I'll get to the number in a second. Let's just do it one step at a time, okay? We'll do that next. So I've taken an x out the front, just like I took a 2 out the front, or a 5. So, when I take an x out of this, what am I left with?
72.
Just the number, right? 72. Okay? Now when I take an x out of this, you told me 30 seconds ago, you told me there were 2 x's there, right? So if I take 1 away, how many are left?
1.
It'll just be an x, right? With that 48. Okay? Does that make sense? Can you see what I've done? So I've factorized a little bit, I've taken out an x, but as Rachel mentioned, I can keep going. I can take out 12 works, right? So I'm going to put a 12 out the front. There was already an x, right? And now, having a look at this, I'll divide each of them by 12. 72 divided by 12. It's a big number. I'm pretty sure it's 6. It's 6, right? And you can double check it. 6 by 12 is 72. Yep.
Can you do the number instead of 12 as 24?
Okay, so I'm not there yet. Remember, I'm trying to train you to see, right? You can all do it in one hit. I could do this all in one hit because I've seen these questions before. I also wrote this question, so I know what it's going to be. But you might not see it right away. Okay, and that doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you should keep going, right? So I've taken out 12 from this. When I divide 12 here, right? 48 divided by 12. 48. Yeah, Jordan. 4. Very good. So I've got a plus 4, but don't forget, there's an x still hanging around, yeah? So far, so good? You see that? Am I done?
No.
I'm not. I can keep going. One more step, it looks like. What number shall I take out? 2. 6 and 4 are both even. So when I multiply this, if I divide this by 2, I'm going to multiply this by 2. It's kind of like beds bouncing. It's 24 x.
3.
Okay, it's all right. Settle down. When I divide by 6,
3.
I'll get 3. When I divide by 4,
2x.
there's my answer. Okay. So, some of the quicker people here, and if you've practiced these before, you would have noticed right from here, right from there, I can take out 24, right? Because that's 3 lots of 24 and that's 2 lots of 24. And I can take out the x. If you're really, really good, you can go straight there. But most of us, it takes a bit of time and a bit of practice to be able to see that. We went in a few steps, no problem. Just show you're working and you'll be all good. Okay?